This movie had potential to be one of the better movies of the year.
Can you imagine thousands of years from now people accepting Jar Jar as a significant religious figure?
Jar Jar, excuse me.
Drive-by movies, you're watching
Fresh releases.
My name's Blaise.
And I'm James.
And this week we're talking about the brand new film, Heretic.
A24's new film, Heretic, is about two young religious women that are drawn into a game of cat and mouse in the house of a strange man. So this movie is bringing Hugh Grant into the horror aspects of movies. He played the villain in Paddington 2. Here he is playing a villain again. How did he do? Blaise, what are your thoughts coming out of the movie?
So this was a film I think I was pretty much interested in from the start. I was interested enough to see what Beck and Woods are up to after the failure of 65. And, you know, one of the first films that we did on the show, Fresh Releases, was Haunt. I'm pretty sure that was episode 1, if I can remember correctly.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, we're 200-something episodes later, and we're still reviewing Beck and Woods movies. So they still survived. But anyways, yeah, I would say that Heretic's probably one of their better films. Obviously, we know them from writing the script for A Quiet Place. But yeah, I have to say, like, 65 I was not a fan of. I was easily a fan of this movie up until a certain part. But not to get too much into spoilers, I do think this film kind of struggled in that third act.
And that is, to continue on with what you said, this movie had potential to be one of the better movies of the year. The script is top-notch in terms of dialogue and some of the questions it asks. All the right pieces are there. Hugh Grant's great and deserves a Golden Globe nomination. And, you know, if there's extra space for an Oscar nomination, he's fantastic in this movie. Just how sinister but kind he is in this movie, because he's never once ever like threatening in this movie, but he's just like horrific and just has the power throughout this movie. So it's a commanding like performance by him. Great movie, and I just love seeing more of his work. I just saw Notting Hill for the first time this last week, so seeing the difference between that and really just Paddington 2, Love Actually movie, and then that's all I've really seen him in. Maybe a couple other movies here and there, but I don't know a lot about his work, which is, of course, this movie stands out amongst all of them, with me being a horror lover. But yeah, I'd say, like, you know, I don't want to get too much into spoilers, but it's a fantastic setup, fantastic sequences, because it's kind of 30 minutes of just, like, you know, introducing the characters, having that living room conversation, then another 30 minutes in a study library-esque room. And then we get the final 45 minutes of the movie where it kind of just loses me. And, you know, not to say that, like, there aren't some great aspects within those 45 minutes. It's not all bad. I would say, actually, overall, I came out of this movie generally surprised and still like this movie. But it's off, though, and just a little uneven. And it all has the last 45 minutes to blame, I'd say.
Yeah, I think a little bit of that has to do with the runtime. I think it would have been, you could make this film a tight 90 minutes. I think they went a little bit too much in that last 45 minutes, like you said. I think it just kind of gets a little bit lost. There's characters that do certain things where it's not really the whole previous, you know, amount of the runtime that adds up, and it just feels like it's kind of trying to be a different movie than it was previously. I think it kind of reminded me a little bit of Barbarian, but Barbarian, like, absolutely loved how, you know, funny and crazy that movie was. This, I really liked all the conversations, like you're saying, that they're having in the house, especially in the beginning, and then it really gets good when they kind of enter that second room. But then as soon as they go into the basement, unlike Barbarian, that's when the movie starts falling apart for me. It just starts, like, I'm like, okay, where is this really going? And then it leads into stuff where I'm like, okay, I don't really feel that was like what the character was kind of intending the whole time. And then you get like a character that starts acting kind of almost like you haven't seen them act that way the entire film before, so it just feels kind of out of pocket in a way. But yeah, I mean, all that being said, I did really enjoy this movie for like the first 2 acts.
Right. Yeah, and that's really where it stands out. And that's, at the end of the day, I think they're strong enough to make this movie still worth checking out. But there's just so many logistical issues within this movie where it's just like, okay, if this was happening in this sequence, this character would have had to do this. And it, you know, involves like kind of the major spoilers within the movie. But just one aspect involves like moving a person. And it's just like, how did that really go down when this was going on at the same time? And then, you know, so like that's stuff I think about when watching the movie, and that kind of happens to anyone who watches just way too many movies. That's our problem. We've seen just way too many movies to where sometimes it just really like you can't sit in and let a movie take you by surprise. And just like when something like that kind of just happens out of nowhere, it really had the Now You See Me aspects of just like, I use that movie as an example of just like, that's not a twist ending because no like pieces were kind of set up to make it a twist ending to where it's satisfying. Like that was always my problem with the Now You See Me movie, that everyone appeared to love. Everyone said like, oh, that twist was epic. I'm like, it wasn't really a twist because there was no way to predict that. It's just kind of just happens at the end. And it kind of is the case here with this movie too. Not that there's really twists, it's just like this just doesn't really work and make sense. It just feels like kind of lazy at points. Just because the dialogue is like tight, like tip top, and then, you know, the ending ends with like an interesting callback to the earlier conversation with the movie. And I like a lot of the themes that the movie's like playing with and asking. It's just, yeah, the unevenness and just like really takes you out in that final act.
Yeah, it does feel like the wheels kind of fall off at a certain point in time where all the cleverness that was put into the first couple acts of the movie, almost just like you said, they kind of take that cheat code and easy way out of like, all right, we'll just, you know, not leave any clues here and just have a character regurgitate all these answers of like what actually happened and just say that that's the truth, and you kind of have to accept it. At least, you know, I'm trying to skirt around this as much as possible without giving spoilers, but that's at least how it felt. Like it had that Now You See Me element of ending where we couldn't ever guess that, but because the character is saying that it's the facts of what happened, and especially the way that Hugh Grant's acting, and what you've seen about him throughout the film, and like how he, you know, what he really wants from from everything that's going on. But yeah, it was kind of a bummer, like how it fell apart really. But overall, I think the really strong points here, like Hugh Grant's performance, like you mentioned, and the 2 girls as well. I thought they were really good, Sophie Thatcher and Chloe East. And yeah, it was just it was a good movie with like a small, like kind of premise, tight knit, small cast, and even Topher Grace.
Wait, that was Topher Grace? I'm just like barely finding out about this.
Yeah, he's playing the father. I mean, he had gray hair in it, but I thought it kind of looked like him. I mean, they never really clearly showed he's wearing glasses, of course, but I thought that was a random casting when there was already such like a small cast, and his character really doesn't go anywhere if you think about it. He just like kind of tried to help, but never really, you know, makes contact.
Yeah, I mean, it was like kind of like a pointless role, like, because I mean, not saying like this is beneath him or anything, but it's just surprising for how little the movie is, and like what that role like doesn't really do anything. It just adds to the tension of this movie. But yeah, you know, back to giving this movie credit, tension is what this movie does very well. Haunt did that. A Quiet Place does that. Maybe not so much 65. I somewhat enjoyed that movie, even though I wouldn't necessarily rewatch it ever again. But what's it called? Yeah, the tension within this movie, whether it's just like the awkward conversations, the silence, or that aspect of being thrown into the unknown in the basement sequences. Because I was still supporting it once they reached the basement, and then, you know, once we reach like an introduction of someone down in the basement, there's still some cool aspects, but it's just really when it gets into just like what is reality, what is like mind games by Hugh Grant. It's just like, all right, we're doing too much here.
Yeah, I thought so too. It just felt like you could have pared this down made it a little tighter instead of going like kind of so broad with it and just kind of taking the easy way out. But overall, I would say that I'm still interested in checking out anything Beck and Woods do. I think it's a solid 3-star movie for me. And yeah, I mean, it was definitely an enjoyable watch. The suspense, like you said, is definitely what kept me on the edge of my seat for most of the movie until I fell off at the end.
Exactly, and that's it. So, you know, I do recommend checking it out if you have a chance to go see it. But yeah, just overall, it's had the chance to be much better, but just kind of at the end of the day, kind of a little bit of a letdown. But still, great supporting. Checking out the performances within this movie because everyone's great within this movie. Even Topher Grace, who I had no idea was in it till just right now. But yeah, great way to help support the show. Let us know what you thought about the movie in the comments down below.
And if you guys haven't already, go ahead and smash that like button, hit the subscribe button, and click that notification bell to get all our latest updates.
And speaking of updates, catch all our social media links down below. We got Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, as well as our own Letterboxd accounts. That'll conclude this week's episode. Tune in next week for a brand new video.